So I wanted to share some of my personal experiences when I was in the South. You know what I'm saying? Where it really wasn't the South, and it was like when I was in North Carolina, and I understand that being in the South calls themselves the Bible Belt, but when I was in the South, I had fun, and I remember. What I really remember about the South is that it wasn't like it wasn't like when I was a child and what I was told about the South. You know, a lot of grandparents came from the South, and the South was regarded as having like family roots. The Broads was rooted in family, and the Broads knew how to conduct themselves and behave with a husband. And their goal, the Broad's goal was to have a family, right? So they knew that they were already set up and set up to really play their part with a husband. And I came across this article a few days ago, and I said I'm gonna be careful and share some of my experience with whoever is listening on my channel, because like I said, I created my channel to speak freely, and whoever don't like it, I don't give a fuck. But I know that somebody needs to hear it, regardless of how I sound, and whether somebody don't like, that I'm a man. And I said, when I saw this article, it said that the 10 best states for swingers in America ranked. So regardless of the white feet, playing footsies over here. Regardless of that, what caught my attention was, excuse me, what caught my attention was this article saying when you think of the Bible Belt, lots of stereotypes probably come to mind. A thriving swinging scene with a question mark, probably not at the top of the list. Now, when I first went to the South, I was thinking, oh man, Bible Belt, these Broads are more family oriented, they're raised to be wives, things like that. But that's not the case anymore. In 2026, these Broads are pretty much on their own program and out of order and out of control. For the most part, every woman should be regarded as an escort or a prostitute because of the way they rather be transactional when it comes to marriage and flings. Nothing serious. You could pretty much pay them to perform. So you know, I- you know, if I was every man, I would be extremely careful and cautious, and I would be on high alert, and I definitely wouldn't be looking for a wife right now, and I wouldn't be taking these Broads serious. But it says, and yet a new Love Honey study ranking the best states for swingers in America put Florida, Texas, and Georgia in the top three, a southern sweep that will either surprise you or won't, depending on your priors. The study analyzed all 50 states across the 9 factors, including Google search interest for swinging, related terms, the number of swingers, clubs, Reddit, community activity, and bars and hotels per capita. It says it actually claimed to count actual swingers. What happen what happens privately stays private, but uses public indicators to assess where the scene is most active and accessible. The top 10 states, according to Love Honey's analysis, are Florida, Texas, Georgia, Nevada, California, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, and Michigan. Now, me personally, out of all those states, I didn't experience any swingers activity, but they're the state, that I did. That's not on this list. That didn't make this list. But still, it says the South dominates, and the state that I did experience it in was one of the Bible Belt states, right? So that's what caught my attention. It says the South dominates a new ranking of the best states for swingers. Florida club count alone is wild. 148 swingers clubs, the most in country. Plus a lively Reddit community pulling 44,000 weekly visitors. Texas follows with 93 clubs and the same Reddit traffic as Florida. Georgia earned its spot through a combination of club availability, search interest, and online activity, rather than any single dominant metric. Nevada came in fourth despite scoring a perfect 100 out of 100 for swinging related Google searches, a sign of how much the other factors pull the overall score. California ranks 6th overall but runs the most active online community in the country with 78,000 weekly Reddit visitors and 6,800 weekly contributions. Louisiana, home to New Orleans and one of the largest swinging conventions in the country, landed at number 13. A city famous for its libertine spirit apparently didn't translate to the broader state metrics. Delaware came in last, with Love Honey unable to find a single active swingers Reddit community for the state. For context on how many people are actually out there, around 4 through 5% of U.S. adults are currently in consensually non-monogamous relationships, according to research aggregated by Factually. The 2024 Match Singles in America report found that 31% of singles have explored consensual non-monogamy at some point. Swinging is one subset of that, but it's a subset with 148 clubs in Florida, so the infrastructure is clearly keeping pace. Love Honey recommends doing research on community etiquette and consent before showing up anywhere new, which is sound advice for most social situations and doubly so here, or doubly so here. The National Coalition for Sexual Freedom and Swing Lifestyle are both cited as starting points for anyone curious about the scene and looking somewhere to begin. So, what I thought about was, these husbands and these wives were swinging, and this is my personal experience. And I remember having all this activity and all this fun, or participating in all this activity and having all this fun with these married couples. And the state that I was in, it was popular. But I'm going to just put it like this. It was a Bible Belt. So these men would have their wives, and these wives would have their husbands. But me, I would be meeting bras off the streets and bringing these bras to these activities while these men are sharing their wives. I was sharing these bras that I was meeting off the streets. So I was looking around during these activities, and I'm just like, why would a man marry one of these broads that like to get down like this? You know what I'm saying? I would never marry a woman that wants to be shared. You know what I'm saying? So I always had a strict protocol when dealing with these activities and meeting these broads. I would never marry one of these broads that like to get down like this. And I remember in the state that I was in, I'm not going to name it, but I remember meeting this one guy who had a wife, and he was excited when he told me that him and his wife was about to have this experience with another broad. And I warned the guy. I told him, I said, that's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. Excuse me. That's not a good idea for you to participate in that activity with your wife. So he did it anyway. And I remember him, telling me about a week later that him and his wife was about to get a divorce. And then I remember I'm gonna share a couple of these times and experiences that I had during this time that I was participating in these activities and what I was coming across. So that's one of them. The second one was, I remember going to this store, and I approached one of these men that was working at the store, and I was dealing with this broad that worked at the store, and she was real sociable, and the other employees at the job was friendly. So I used to drop her off at work sometimes, and one of the dudes that was working outside the job, when I was dropping her off, I wound up walking inside the store after I dropped her off, or while I was dropping her off, and I wanted to buy me a few things. But the dude outside, I told him, I said, y'all got a lot of side chicks down here that y'all like to marry, and I was telling him how the majority of y'all religious women down here, or y'all religious broads down here, are actually transactional. Strippers, prostitute, or wives, The dudes was marrying side chicks that like to do the whole swinger thing. Anytime a woman is making herself available to participate in these activities with other men while she's married, me personally, I refer to those as side chicks, because that's what it is. Me personally, it's a red flag for me to marry one of these broads that like to participate in one of these activities, right? So I used to get the broads off the streets and go to these activities, but the husbands will be sharing their wives, and I dealt with some of these situations with these wives. I remember one dude allowed his wife to hang out with me, spend time with me, and she was trying to create this whole swingers lifestyle in the form of like setting up these events and stuff like that. So I used to hang with the broad, spend time with the broad, you know what I'm saying? Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because I had both my parents, they were married, they were in love with each other. And, I ventured out and went to the military. I had my children early when I was in my 20s, early 20s too. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was 23 and shit like that. So at this point now in my life, I get to like think back, and I get to make moves that are grown man, but I have a lot of memories as well. So I said, let me go ahead and share this experience real quick, or share this story or a couple of stories, because I participated for over 3 years in these in this lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? So I talk about these broads on my channel because I have experience in these lifestyles. Plus, my parents was married. You know what I'm saying? And I have siblings too by the same parents. You know what I'm saying? So with this activity, the swingers lifestyle, like I said, the lifestyles, marriage is a lifestyle at this point. At this point, it's a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Monogamy is a lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Single motherhood is a lifestyle. Dating is a lifestyle. Boyfriend and girlfriend is a lifestyle. So on my channel, I like to bring awareness to these lifestyles because for the most part, these lifestyles get toxic and messy. And lots of fornication in all these lifestyles, which is a no-no, right? So I wound up walking away from the lifestyle of swingers because I was bringing bras off the streets, but these dudes was actually sharing their wives. You know what I'm saying? So the last time I'm gonna tell the last time I participated in this lifestyle, right? The last time I participated in this lifestyle, there was a husband and a wife, and there was a broad that I met off the streets. And we went to this spot, and this husband and his wife was ready to get down. Now, I'm not talking about the husband dealing with men. There was none of that, what they call it, polygamy. Polygamy is like, you know what I'm saying, the elemental P, the Skittle community. That's another lifestyle. But I'm not doing another dude. I don't get down like that. It was just the women for me. So the dude gave me his wife, and I gave him the broad that I met off the streets. And they was in there getting busy, and I was getting busy with his wife. But when I was really getting down with the broad, all right, he wound up approaching me and his wife while we was getting busy. And he made the situation extremely uncomfortable. And I said, oh shit, I'm out of there. I told the broad that I brought, hey, we out of here. Because I noticed that maybe some of these dudes like to see their wife get off with another man just so he can go in and probably get excited. So the situations got too uncomfortable for me. I didn't mind the situations early on where these dudes wanted to let their wives spend time with me and stuff like that. But I noticed that I was learning a lot of things when it came to these lifestyles. So if you stay on my channel long enough, you will hear me referring to these lifestyles like dating and marriage and boyfriend and girlfriend. I refer to those as lifestyles because that's exactly what they are. For me, they're lifestyles, you know what I'm saying? And I know that that's what's going on today, dating and, these bras can't be trusted. They like to, walk away from situations. It's just not divine. But that's what I pointed out on my channel. That's what I pointed out on my channel. So when I saw this article, I was thinking about when it says the Bible Belt. A lot of these states that consider themselves Bible Belts, their broads are not biblical. And the lifestyles they choose to live, like having children out of wedlock, that's another lifestyle for especially for these so-called black broads. They love, being, pushing that lifestyle as far as being a single mother by choice. And but anyway, a lot of these lifestyles in the South are opposite and contrary to the Bible. So when it says Bible Belt, when people say, "Oh, that's the Bible Belt," those broads down there be getting down, and the men, for the most part, are simps and perverts and stuff like that. So I witnessed a lot of these dudes that are simps and perverts that get down with their wives with when it comes to other broads or even other dudes. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the dudes are suspect as well. So I wanted, I said, let me go ahead and share a couple of my, anecdotal experiences real quick. And I got a lot of stories about these lifestyles, especially this one, because I was out there getting busy, and I said, let me pull back from this lifestyle because again, the dudes couldn't handle, seeing their wives get down. But marriage is not sacred no more, and relationships are not really um, the best way to go in my book. You know what I'm saying? I never had to be married to get down with these different lifestyles because it was so much. It was a lot of fornication to go around, and these people didn't really do any type of, it wasn't really a lot of red tape. You know what I'm saying, to get down with these types of lifestyles, man. So again, these bras are not worth it. And again, I'm always say this: if you don't like what I say, you don't like my tone, you don't like that I'm a man, you don't like that I'm saying what I'm saying, or talking about these bras or these situations, just remember I created my channel to speak freely and to say what I want to say without going overboard. And always remember, I don't give a fuck about what people think or what people got to say about what I'm saying or my channel or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, if I was a dude today, or if I could be all dudes today, again, I would bring awareness to these dudes about these broads and how they're always looking for an opportunity to come up off a dude, or they're always looking for a situation that they can use until they get to where they're going and stuff like that. So, hey man, play at your own risk. But like I said, I don't share these experiences of being a simp and a sucker. And I had my parents, and I was also raised in the projects too, you know what I'm saying, in the hood and all of that kind of stuff. So I got experience in all of this stuff that I talk about. But yeah, man, I thought about that when it said these this whole, top 10 states for swingers. A lot of these religious people be sharing their husbands and their wives in these situations because that's pretty much what's popular over here in America is a lot of these perverts and simps, they done linked up. And I'm talking about the pervert broads and the pervert dudes. They done got together and they're living these lifestyles no different from the Skittle community, the Skittle lifestyle. And, you know, I always point out monogamy as the problem for me because I don't choose monogamy, but I understand how bad monogamy has traumatized people, especially starting with the bras who like to get jealous and all that kind of stuff and be out here crashing out on these dudes that are just boyfriends and the bras are just girlfriends. So it's a lot of wild stories with these lifestyles. Plus polygamy is different because you got a lot of suspect and perverts and elemental P men and women sharing those lifestyles, and it gets pretty messy. And plus, it's like whack as hell. But yeah, I thought about that when it said the Bible Belt. I said, let me share these, couple of Bible Belt stories with these listeners, whoever's listening. But yeah, ain't nothing but lifestyles, man. That's all it is out here in America. Nothing but lifestyles, you know what I'm saying? Marriage is a lifestyle as well over here, too, because a lot of these bras are transactional, even in marriage. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these dudes are just suckers, man. You know what I'm saying? But enough said on this. On to the next one, man. You know what I'm saying? Peace.